Hi my lovelies, welcome back to my channel, and for everybody who is new, I'm Leorah and I'm so glad you found me. And welcome to today's video, which is going to be my next installment of the Infertility Series. And while I was planning this video, I actually thought, why didn't I have this idea earlier that I'm actually going to bring on the kids that I'm speaking about in that video. So last time we spoke about my oldest son, and as you maybe have heard that some kids are right here because these are the ones that we're talking about, so I'm gonna have them on in a second. So last time we spoke about Akiva. He is now 12.5 years old. Come Akiva. So this is the one that we spoke about last time, the big guy. He's gonna have his bar mitzvah in March. Yeah, and you want to say something?
Hello YouTube.
Hello YouTube. Okay, so he is my firstborn, the one that I held and I felt like a baby because I had no idea what to do. So that's the one, and now he's such a big boy already. So this is this one, my very firstborn child, and makes me feel very old right now. Okay, thank you, Akiva. Okay. And then today, in today's installment, I'm actually going to talk about my first twin pregnancy, and that is Shalevet and Kinneret. So come here, sweeties. So if you're not new here, you have seen, let me go to the side a little bit. Okay, so here you have Shalevet and Kinneret. They are twins. Even if you don't see it, they're actually really twins, and they are super, super different in height, in everything, in the way they look, but they are, as we have been told, they are actually identical twins, which is weird. But I'm gonna get into this in the video itself. I just wanted to show you that these are the beautiful girls that we're talking about today. And with that, we're gonna go right into the video. You want to say something?
Yeah. Hi.
Okay. All right, sweeties. You can go upstairs, and Ima's gonna talk to the ladies.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Welcome.
So I think from now on, that's what I'm going to do. If my kids are around when I'm filming, then I'm going to just bring that child on that I'm talking about in that installment, because it's a nice idea, I think, to just bring all those past memories and all that history into today by just showing you the finished result, sort of, you know? So that's I think what the plan is, if I can manage it, because of course now the school year is starting and they will be not as at home as much, which is nice. It's nice too. Anyway, the summer was really, really long, and we all need a break, you know. Anyway, so that is that, and I have promised you that I'm always going to make really, really clear what I'm talking about, because there are people who cannot stand topics like this. It makes them feel really uneasy. It makes me feel really uneasy, honestly, too, but I do feel that I have been put through all of this for a reason, and that I'm just supposed to share this in order to maybe encourage other people, or I don't know really why, but I feel like I have to overcome my own feeling uncomfortable and just go there and do this and expose stuff. Expose. That's one thing I don't know. Like, just give it to you, you know, and you do whatever you want with that. Anyway, so that's what we're doing. And if this is not that kind of a video for you, then please don't watch. And for everybody else, it's going to be a story time again. Take something to drink and something, and then we're going to just talk a little bit. Alright, so every time I'm sitting down and trying to talk to you about this kind of a topic, I feel like I need to just take a deep breath and calm my nerves and think like, oh, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's hard to relive all of this, but I just really, like I said, I just really feel like this is what I should do, you know. While I was in all those years of treatments, I could not figure out. I was actually praying and crying so much, and I was thinking the whole time, God, why do you put me through this? Why? What have I ever done to deserve this? And I think now that I'm looking back, it sort of becomes clear to me that that could be a reason, you know, that God thought that maybe I was strong enough to do this in order to then later on be an encouragement for other people or something. So I just hope that that's the reason, because otherwise I don't see why God should punish me with being, you know, infertile. I cannot see that, you know. Anyway, so it just happened the way it happened, and life is the way it is, and I was very, very fortunate that I could be helped, and that I have now my hands full with 7 kids, and God bless them. Yeah, so last time we had finished when my son was born, Akiva, that you just saw. He was born and I felt absolutely incapable, and I didn't know what to do, and I got released from the hospital, and I was totally overwhelmed. I cannot believe that I was totally overwhelmed with one child. And sometimes, you know, the first couple of months, sometimes I didn't take a shower for 3 days because I felt like I don't have time. I don't have time to take a shower. I don't have time to do anything. I was a total mess. Not that I was depressive or anything. It was just that it was all a lot. Like, I don't know. I don't even know. It makes no sense for me now, but in that moment, that was just the way it was. You know, first time moms, it's hard. It's not easy for everybody. So anyway, and a lot of women here in my country have children much, much earlier, like 10 years earlier than I did. I had my first child when I was 27. So when I was in the delivery ward, or what's it called? Maternity ward? I think maternity ward. I was one of the oldest first moms there, you know, and if I would have been in Germany, for example, where I'm originally from, I would have probably one of the young moms, because people have children late there. So anyway, it's just really weird. It's like, you know, yeah, so I went home, and you know, I had to start my life, and that's what I did. And then immediately, really, I started to plan the next pregnancy, because I never let myself rest. As you know, I'm a crazy fanatical control freak in everything. It's crazy. You know, I always have to have everything cleaned up and in order and planned and everything. And this is really, I think, also a lesson that God is teaching me all the time in my life, when I feel like everything is falling apart, because God is teaching me, girl, it doesn't work that way, you know. You cannot rule your life like this. It's, you know, to a certain extent, yes, and you can put in your best effort, but overall there are so many things that are beyond your control. Yeah, so I was thinking, I'm going to nurse Akiva till then, and then I have like 2 months of transition time. I wait till I get my period, and then 2 weeks before I start on that medicine, and like I had it all planned out. Yeah, so I did not really let myself enjoy the nursing time, because when he was 4 months old, I was already slowly transitioning him to bottled milk and like to formula, and I don't know, I now regret all of this, you know. I think, why was I stressing myself so much? Why was I always under that pressure? You have to deliver, you have to bring more, you have to do, you have to whatever, you know. I was under an enormous amount of stress. And maybe if you hear this and you're not living in the Middle East, or in a country where children are so valuable, and if you're blessed with a lot of children, that means that you are blessed as a person, as a family, as you're rich, you know, even if you're not maybe financially rich, but you're rich in blessing. And I always felt that this is amazing. But at the same time, especially when you are a person that is inhibited in that regard, it is an enormous amount of pressure. Enormous. Like, especially when you have friends who got married at the same time, who are at your age, and they start delivering child after child after child, and that is and you feel like such a failure. It makes you feel really, really bad. So that is really a side of the whole thing, together with not conceiving naturally and not delivering naturally, which made me feel like a failure all around. You know, it is very hard to pick yourself up from this if you're already insecure, and I always was insecure. I am now insecure, believe it or not, I am. Yeah, so I didn't really enjoy this whole first half year of motherhood, because I was planning the next pregnancy. And when Akiva was 6 months old, I had weaned him already, and he was firmly on drinking formula, and I was basically waiting for my next period to come on so I can start my next fertility treatment cycle. So, and that's what I did. I went back into treatments, and I thought, wow, now that we know how it works, it's going to go smooth. Like within 2 months, I'm going to be pregnant again, which is maybe, you know, not the best idea after having had a C-section. So I guess the common thing here in my country is that you should not get pregnant for a year before you start treatments again after a C-section. So anyway, yeah, and then we started treatments and nothing worked. Nothing worked. Everything was worse than before. No eggs were growing in my ovaries, no matter what we did. So that was hard. That was really hard, because I thought, wow, so we're actually gonna just have one child. And then we started, of course, spoiling him like like crazy, because we thought this is the only one that we're gonna have. And then we basically started to do IUIs all the time. Like almost every month we had an IUI done. And if you remember last time, I told you that IUI is basically when you are growing your own egg in your own ovary, and you have like a sperm donation being brought in, and then you get medicine to have an ovulation, and then you get pregnant, hopefully. So I had like, I think I'm exaggerating a little bit. It was not every month that we could do that, because obviously I just told you that my eggs were not growing very well, and anyway, so it did not work. It did not work. Nothing ever worked. We were just, I was getting more upset every single month, and I was trying everything. I was trying. It didn't work. So then I went through another examination, all kinds of tests, and they told me that from having primary infertility, I went into secondary infertility, which basically means that after having had one successful pregnancy with a living child, I guess that's included in the definition, that you then stop having children. And it happens to a lot of people, honestly, that is exactly what happens, you know. So I went into that, and you know, it just felt like I'm being slapped left side, right side, left side, right side. And that maybe sounds really dramatic, but this is really how I felt, you know. I just thought, when is it gonna be enough? Can I just have that normal thing that normal people have, you know? And I said, I have had conversations with my husband. You know, this is gonna sound a little bit like lowbrow, but it sounds like, you know, the cheerleaders are getting pregnant in the back of the truck, but I am, who actually, I want a child, and I'm praying for children, and I want this, you know, this is gonna complete us and whatever. I cannot get pregnant, while other people, they don't even want to, and they get pregnant. How is that fair? How can that be? There is so much that doesn't add up here. And yeah, so we went into more treatments, and this is then actually when we started to do IVF, or to prepare for IVF, which means that you get very strong medicine, you grow eggs in your ovaries, and then they get extracted during a surgery, and then they will be combined with your partner's or husband's semen and in a dish, and then they'll be, sorry, it's so hard for me to do all this in English. They'll grow them in what's it called? In a thing. They grow them till they're, I think, like 100 cells or something like this. Not 100% sure now, and then they'll put them back into the uterus, and hopefully they will implant. So yeah. So I had, in that cycle, when I actually conceived my girls, I had grown 2 eggs, and they extracted them. No, actually, you know what? 3 eggs. There were 3 eggs, and they fertilized them, and 2 of them they froze for later use, and 1 of them they implanted. So, and this is where it comes in that they are actually identical twins, because they are, even though they don't look it. And apparently, now I don't have the medical evidence right here, but they told us that it's actually true, that I think 1 pair of identical twins in something like 30,000 pairs does not look identical, even though they are. So I don't know, that's what we've been told. There is no way that they are by mistake not identical, because they were also sharing one placenta, and you know, so that's what we got. You know, and they look different from the very beginning. It's not like an issue of like mixing them up in the hospital or something. Yeah, anyway, so they did put one of those fertilized or those embryos back into my uterus and let me go home, and then told me to come back after a while. And of course I had to take all kinds of medicine. Like the amount of medicine that I had to take for IVF, I don't think a lot of people realize what that is. You know, first of all, I had to sign a whole lot of documents saying that in case there is some kind of medical backlash after even like years, you know, that could be traced back to the fertility treatments, like cancer of the reproductive organs or something like this, that I am agreeing to this treatment and I'm aware that that might happen, and I cannot come back and sue them for that, you know, or something like that. So, and then I had a whole big bag, big bag of medicine every single month. There were injections that I had to give myself every day. There was oral medicine that I had to take. There were suppositories like in every hole. It was like really, it was really humiliating, really, really unpleasant, but I knew that I wanted to do that. I never questioned it. My husband never questioned it. We knew we wanted this. We were craving it. We were fighting for it. We were praying for it. And that's what we did. So this is what you do when you want something, right? You don't ask another question. I put basically my health on the line, as does every woman who does those treatments, and that's what you do, you know. So now I'm coming back like for the fourth time to the point where they put in that embryo. They let us go home, and I believe after 2 weeks, was it after 2 weeks? I think so. It's so long ago already because my girls are already almost 9 years old now. So I had to come back for a blood test, and they called me with the results, and they also told me that my pregnancy hormone was really, really high. So I thought, because I'm a nurse, so I thought, wow, why is my pregnancy hormone at this stage in the pregnancy that high, you know? So I had a suspicion, but I had nothing to ground it on, because I knew they had just put in one embryo. Why would I think that that would split? Right? So yeah, so then I think another week later we went for our first ultrasound, and actually my sister and her husband were visiting, and we all went together to this ultrasound. My husband, my sister, her husband, and Akiva, who was at that point 3 years old or 3.5, something like that. So I went in. And my husband was behind a curtain in the same room, and the technician did the ultrasound, and then she just stopped at some point. She gazed at the monitor, and then she said, "How many embryos did they put in?" And then she went to my file, and then she said, "Just one, right?" And I said, "Yeah, why? Like, why?" And then she said, and then she turned the monitor towards me, and then she said, "Look." And then I saw those two little peanuts, you know, and I was like, "No, what?" And then she said, "It's 2." And I heard my husband gasp behind the curtain. Yeah, so that was insane. It was insane. And we then went outside, and we told my sister and her husband, and we were just saying, "It's 2, it's 2." And my sister, she did not have a lot of English in school, but that she understood. So that, yeah. It was amazing. We were so happy. And then on the same evening we called my parents, and we got to tell them about it. And I remember that we went out for dinner on that evening, and my husband actually gave a toast, or he made a toast. And he had like some glass of wine. Of course I wasn't drinking, but anyway, so and he said, after he had made the toast about life and about us being pregnant and about being so happy and all of that, and he said then l'chaim. That is like when you say cheers or something in English, you know, when you like touch your glasses and then you say cheers and then you drink. I think that's That's the English word. So that we say in Hebrew, we say lachaim, which actually means to life, but in Hebrew, the word life is plural. It's always plural. It will never be singular. Chaim, like chaim is it's grammatics, it doesn't matter, it is plural. And he sort of made this connection to those two lives that were growing inside of me, which was amazing, you know, that it's plural and the life in me is plural. And this is so, like, when I think now about it, even though I was back then, I was already touched that he did that, or where he always gets this stuff from, you know. So, but even now when I reflect on that the life within me is plural, and it always has been, and I just didn't know, you know. So that is absolutely amazing. When I think about it, I want to cry, really, like really. So yeah, and then the pregnancy progressed, and I was really, really sick because, as I told you last time already, the more times I was pregnant, and especially with the two girls, like with girls I was always more sick than with the boys. So I was really getting sick, and I was getting big, you know. And then I think I want to say around 5 months, when I was 5 months pregnant, maybe. I had another ultrasound, and then I think also till week 15 I had to keep taking medicine in order to keep the pregnancy, to help the body to kick in, because up until then sort of the medicine is faking it for the body to feel that he's pregnant, but at some point the body has to take over, and the babies are triggering the mother's brain to produce the pregnancy hormones and things like this. So whatever. So I had then stopped to take the medicine. The transition was fine, everything was good, and then I had another ultrasound, and then the technician said there is a problem with both babies. And I was like, no. And he said one of them has a horseshoe kidney, and the other one has a problem with the heart. There is like some kind of anomaly with the heart. And he checked, and we were in there for probably an hour, and he was measuring and doing and whatever, and I thought, this is not happening. No, please, God, please don't. And then I went home and I looked up horseshoe kidney and all of these things that he had told us, and I thought, we're gonna have this child has the potential of being really, really sick and all kinds of problems throughout the whole life. What are we gonna do? I mean, we never considered abortion. We would never do that. That's personally our thing, that we like, this is a no for us. But it was very hard to like wrap my head around it. And I told my parents about it, and actually their response was, you know what, just trust in God. Trust in God that it's good, because he has created these children, this life within you, and he has made it perfect. And just trust that, you know, trust it to God, and trust it to God every single day, and just, you know, bless those children and be calm, and you know. So, and I also went to a doctor who was like a naturopath, who was really, really helpful, and he also said, don't worry about it, don't stress out, your kids are gonna be fine. And I'm enough of a nurse and enough of a medical person to not blindly trust everything like people say, you know. Just saying trust and be still, that is not good enough for me, because I want proof. I'm a control freak. so I did whatever I could. We did all kinds of different special ultrasounds and whatever we could do, and but I felt at some point that those kids are going to be fine. I had this thing in me that I knew. And then when the kids were born, when we were still in the maternity ward, they already took them for exams and checked them, and they were absolutely fine. So I don't know why that guy saw these things at the 5-month ultrasound. I don't know what that was about. But my kids are fine. Thank God. Yeah. So when they were born, of course, it was a scheduled C-section, and I had contractions already, I think, from like week 32, and they were scheduled for week 36. So at week 35, I had to be admitted to the hospital because I didn't have enough amniotic fluid, and they were sort of stealing amniotic fluid from each other, which is they're like the twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome, it's called. So they're either stealing nourishment from each other or nutrition from each other through when they share a placenta, or they're stealing amniotic fluid because they were in two sacs but in one placenta. So is this too medical? I hope you guys are still enjoying this. Anyway, so this is gonna be so long again, so sorry. Yeah, so I thought that actually they're going to get the kids out at that point, but they actually sent me back home and I could carry them till week 36. And on the morning of my scheduled C-section, when I think like at 6 o'clock in the morning, we left the house. My parents had come to be with Akiva, and we left the house, my husband and I actually started to go into labor on that morning while we were being admitted at the hospital and going through all the regular things, blood tests and whatever. And I was then already in a hospital gown waiting for my C-section, already had IV running, and I started to go into labor. And nobody took me seriously. And this time I knew it was labor. So I was there waiting for my C-section from something like, I don't know, 8 o'clock in the morning. And like by 10 o'clock it got, you know, hard enough that I could not talk during the contractions, and nobody cared. Like, it's like, what, you know, people, when is it my turn? And there were apparently on that day so many emergencies that we got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And I, at some point I said, this is not working for me, you know? So they put me on a stretcher and drove me to the OR. But then I was standing there with two nurses who were talking above my head back and forth, and I was on the stretcher in the hallway outside of the OR and waiting for the anesthesiologist. Very hard word, because apparently he was also running back and forth between different surgeries or something like this. I don't know. There was a whole mess going on, and I said at some point then, after maybe another 15 minutes just waiting there, I said, you know what, I'm just letting you know, I'm going to start pushing now. I don't know if I was actually at this stage, but I thought it's just, you know, it just serves them right if I use some kind of, you know, pressure. So, and then suddenly they started running, and 3 minutes later I had my babies, sort of. Maybe not 3 minutes, but 5 minutes later I had them, because they suddenly got scared, because, yeah. So Shalhevet came out first, she was breech, and then Kinneret came, and yeah, and that was that. Then I had them, and they were both actually very good birth weight for twins. They were 2.5 kilos each, which is really, really good. And then I had them. I had my two girls. They were not drinking well. Both of them were not drinking well. I actually, with those two, I gave up breastfeeding after something like 6 weeks, because it was such a hassle, and I could never build up a real milk supply because they were not really drinking, you know. I always had to supplement from the very beginning, and so I just gave up. And which made life much easier as a twin mom with a 3-year-old and no help inside. But you know, so I could just line them up in my arm and just give everybody the bottle and like hold them in one go, and that made life much, much easier. It was a lifesaver, even though I regretted not being able to breastfeed them, which I made up with my second set of twins. I'm gonna tell you in a couple of weeks about that. So yeah. So that is that. They were born, I was happy, and we actually thought, okay, so we still have the frozen embryos in the embryo bank, or whatever you call it. But as I told you in my introduction video of the series, that in Israel, your healthcare provider pays for 2 successful pregnancies if you do treatments or if you have to do treatments. So now we had 2 successful pregnancies with 3 living children. So we thought that they're not going to pay for more. So I'm going to get into that next time then, what happened then, because we thought that we are not going to be able to afford financially to go into more treatments, even though we still have 2 frozen eggs. So this is where we're going to pick up next time. I hope you enjoyed this. If this was very jumbled up, I'm very, very sorry. Again, it is not easy for me to talk about this. It is, first of all, it is a long time ago, and for the longest time I have tried to not think too much about this, and now when I'm trying to bring this back, it sort of comes from different directions, and like thoughts are jumping at me like from at different sides. So that means that suddenly I have to go back in the story, and it might sound really, really terrible for you. So I hope this all still makes sense, and if you like the video, then please give it a like. Let me know what you think about this series, or if you have been affected by things like this in your own life. If you want to share, you can also DM me on Instagram or something like it, if you don't want to have a public comment in the comment section down below. Anyway, but if you're new here and if you like this kind of content and also my makeup content, because of course that's what my main focus, then please subscribe to my channel and stick around. I would really, really love that. And for all of you, I'm going to see you here very soon for my next video, either for this series or for all my other videos. And up until then, I love you so much. Hugs and kisses. Bye.